In this tutorial, I'll be learning how to cut this kind of trouser with this elastic waistband, with this kind of pocket, and also with turn up on the ankle. This trouser is actually for a child, so we are going to be learning how to cut this trouser for a child. And the process we'll be using, like the method to cut this trouser, is basically how you will cut for an adult too. The only thing that differs is the measurement, honestly. So if this is your vibe, come along with me while we dive right into this video. But before then, hi, my name is Oluwata saying, in case this is the first time you're seeing my channel, and you're welcome. To all my returning subscribers, you're also welcome. Thank you so much for stopping by today's tutorial. So I used this very stretchy fabric for my trouser, and the basic measurements you need to measure on the person to achieve a trouser like this are the full length, the hip, the thigh, and the crouch, and the trouser waist. For the sake of this video, I'm going to be cutting the front panel before cutting the back panel. You can as well cut the front and back panels together, but I'll be cutting for front first before cutting for the back. So I'll be folding my fabric for the front panel first before using that to cut out for the back. So I folded my fabric into two. What you will put into consideration before folding your fabric is the hip. The hip divided by 4, that's what I'm measuring now. You'll be dividing the hip by 4, starting from where your fold stops. Divide the hip by 4. Then in this case, you can see that I'm measuring 6.5 because this person's hip is just 26. So I measured the hip divided by 4. I added 1 inch allowance for sewing, and for extending the crouch. In this case, because I'm cutting for a child, I'm using 1.5. If you're cutting for an adult, you can use 2, you can use 2.5, depending on the person's hip. The next thing is to measure the length. So it's going to have band of 1.5. I placed my 1.5 up, and I measured the full length, which is 20. I added 1 inch allowance for sewing the turn up on it. So I divided the hip by 4 now. I added 1 inch sewing allowance. I'm using it because this trouser acts elastic on the waist, so I'll be considering the hip, not the waist. Then I measured the crouch. I deducted 1.5 inch band from it, and then I connected the waistline to the crouch, and I marked out the crouch line. The next thing to do is to divide the thigh by 2, not by 4, by 2, and then I added 1 inch allowance. Then I marked it straight down because it is a straight cut trouser, it is not a pencil trouser, it's just a straight cut. Then the next thing to do is to cut this out. Don't forget that this is still the front panel. After cutting it out, I placed on another fabric that is on fold of 2. Then I added 1.5 inch to the crouch because the back crouch has to be bigger than the front crouch. If it's an adult, you can add 2, 2.5, 3, depending on the person's size. But because I'm cutting for a child, I added 1.5 inch to the crouch. And from the front panel, I'm going to be deducting like 1 inch downward, just like I marked. And then I proceeded to cutting this out. The next thing to do after this is to mark where the pocket is going to be. I'll be marking this on the front panel. So I'll pick up my tape rule, and then I'm going to measure 1 inch downward first. I'm using 1 inch because I'm cutting for a child. If you're cutting for an adult, you should use 2 inches. Then the width of the pocket is going to be 5 inches. If you are cutting for an adult, you should use 6 to 7 inches. And then I cut this open, and I'll be keeping the back panel aside first. Then for the front panel, I'm just going to measure 1 inch inward. If you're cutting for an adult, you should use 1.5 to 2.5 inches, depending on the person's size. Then you are going to connect that to the width, like the wideness of the pocket, and you're just going to cut it out just like I've done. For the pocket itself, I'm using 10 by 12. I'm supposed to use 12 by 12, but because I'm just trying to manage my fabric, I'm using 10 by 12. Then you are going to arrange it, making sure that right side is facing right side. Open it up just like I did. Bring back your front panel, place it on top of it, and then you trace out this part that I'm tracing out. And basically that is it for that. The next thing is to cut the band. So for the band, I'm using the waistline plus 8 inches allowance because of the elastic. I need excess for it to gather properly. Then for the wideness, I'm using 4 on fold of 2 to when I'm done attaching it to be 1.5. So that is it for the cutting of this trouser. In my next video, I'm going to be talking about the sewing. I'll put the link up and also in the description box. In fact, the sewing tutorial is showing right now on your screen. Just click on it to see all of that. Thank you so much for sticking with me from the beginning of the video to this point. I'll see you in my next video. Bye.